Ewan, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's the same Call of Duty, but I can't make that rhyme, it's just bad. How you feeling? How you doing?
I mean, I want to say that I'm shocked because I feel like Call of Duty campaigns are literally the most, like, you know what you're gonna get before you go into them, and yet somehow they have I would call this an all-timer bag fumbling moment, but given that the game's only gonna make $1 billion anyway, it can't be that. But it's still kind of, we already had those concerns going in that it was going to basically be, you know, it was originally Modern Warfare 2 premium DLC that was remangled into a full game, and it seems as if those concerns have kind of, yeah, they've manifested and they're not good.
I'll tell you what I forgot happened, because yeah, we'll read out a few different things that are happening in regards to Modern Warfare 3's launch state, but I forgot that last year Jason Schreier reported that they were going to be pushing back this year's Call of Duty, assumedly for additional development time, assumedly for essential things that would have brought that together, but in reality it has just released anyway. Obviously the review scores that are doing the rounds is a 4 out of 10 from IGN, but one of the main parts of this is, like you said, it feels like this weird DLC turned main release thing, which was kind of advertised as the first open world Call of Duty, but in reality that just results in lots of really open, barren environments filled with little pockets of AI that you can run up to and interact with, or fight or whatever. It doesn't feel like a polished product. There's obviously bits and pieces here, like the cutscenes at the very, very beginning are quite impressive. The general idea, the general level of motion capture that's there is cool. There's an attempt to do a new version of No Russian. It's nowhere near it's not set in an airport anymore, it's set on a plane, but they try and invoke that same title, as it was teased at the end of Modern Warfare 2. There's things like that, but one of the major things that did the rounds over the weekend was that some people playing the earliest version of the game got an error message on screen asking for the Modern Warfare 2 disc, which it very much spells out that this thing was always meant to be attached to Modern Warfare 2. So that was one thing. Activision tweeted out saying they fixed it, just saying they fixed the error without acknowledging what the specifics of the error were. And that was one thing. Another thing is that the game's size is 234 gig. It was mentioned officially that it was going to be over 200 gig, but it is just another one of those unoptimized releases. It's one of those things where Call of Duty over the years, especially over the last few years, has exploded in file size, and this is the biggest one so far. So there's a little bit more to it, just in terms of the reality of what you're buying, but I guess, does any of this surprise you?
I mean, I've had this conspiracy for yonks now that this is a deliberate move of Call of Duty of squeezing out the other games in your hard drives, that you have to develop more time or devote more time to Call of Duty. I know that you can go into the manager and like remove the things that you don't want to play, but that initial base download is just ridiculous. And yeah, like the campaign, the way it's arranged, those open world levels, which are called open combat missions, I think they're called, that in itself is just ridiculous because they're repurposed multiplayer maps, like different bits of Verdansk. And Call of Duty now feels very much like it's a hodgepodge of nostalgia, trying to like do that, but then also pushing people towards the newer iterations of like Warzone or whatever. I know in the open combat missions, there are weapon drops you can pick up, and you drop in literally like you're in Warzone. It's just kind of, it's emblematic of where the franchise is kind of heading in weird directions. I know that overall I feel like people have received Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer quite positively. Modern Warfare 2's, it was kind of a bit more slower paced than the previous titles, and this one's kind of really gone back to that. If you're into that kind of slidey, shooty, stupid stuff, then you'll probably be a big fan. I'm not. I like to basically like be cautious and whatever. But yeah, no, it's just it's very weird as well, because I know that people have enjoyed largely the new iteration of Modern Warfare's story. So to end it and not give it the proper conclusion that it really necessarily deserves is also a bit weird. And then to have it all marred in that, oh, we're just going to do bits of the old games again. I don't know. Call of Duty is in a very weird place at the minute.
Yeah. I think it's weird as well because obviously the Activision acquisition finally went through, and it's one of those things where, like I said, you can look back to the news reports that were doing the rounds across last year about them potentially missing Call of Duty altogether this year and missing the annual cycle, and then something happened behind the scenes, whatever, where it's like, let's just get one more out there. We might as well get a bunch more unit sales. We might as well do one more thing, and then we're going to shunt it off down to Microsoft anyway. So I kind of wonder just how brazen the reality of that was, where it's like, what can we cobble together? Okay, we'll call it open combat zones. We've got some environments. We've got, these obviously the game engine. We've got these AI scripts and everything else. I would be fascinated by the reality of what this developer development was, because it does feel and look very thrown together. Which is the other thing, is that it is a full price game. It's £70 over in the UK, if not more if you get different versions of it. But the campaign's only about 3 hours long. It's apparently, if you really push it, you can do about 5 hours, but at the same time, it's not very long. And that does mostly line up with the shorter runtime of the previous 2 recent Modern Warfare campaigns, but still, it's an extremely short runtime for a full price product, and to me at least speaks to the idea of them just, what can we put together to get it over the finish line?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that doesn't, that's a big argument in of itself to bring back Blockbusters, so you could just rent the newest Call of Duty and Steam through the campaign in a weekend. We need to bring back game rentals to combat this kind of nefariousness. And also the Xbox, if you were signing on an Xbox over the last few days, you got a big home notification ping saying, hey, Call of Duty's out, you want to come on over to Call of Duty? We spent a lot of money on this thing, so we kind of need
this to work.
And it's a terrible first foot forward for the new era. Obviously, it's not under the new era yet, but in terms of, post-acquisition, this is what Call of Duty is. This is probably one of the most cynical examples of entries that we've had in the series thus far. Forget about all the trend chasing stuff that occurred, after Modern Warfare games, where they kind of went into like the futuristic stuff because near future warfare was the thing. Forget about like the nostalgia throwbacks to World War II and the initial Modern Warfare. This is the most cynically business-minded thing that they have done yet. And especially, it kind of reminds me a little bit of FIFA, how a lot of people want to play a FIFA game to like play career mode or do different things like that, whereas that mode has kind of been completely neglected over the last like decade or so, and more people have been pushed into playing FIFA Ultimate Team because that's where all the microtransactions are. By having these open combat missions in the single player stuff, where you have those battle royale style pickups, you have the drop-in stuff, it's all solo kind of oriented. That to me is just like, okay, someone at Activision has gone, can we condition players to basically go into Warzone and do more Warzone-y stuff? It's just, oh god, man, it's General Shepard levels of buffoonery.
It's like, it is weird because, like you said at the very beginning, like, it is, you think people know what we're getting into, and I feel like if you were following the gaming industry across the last year or so, you know exactly what this was. I remember Josh did a whole video, me and him did a whole video on the state of what it seemed, how it seemed to be coming together, and how it was quite a worrying release across the last few months. And obviously that's only been proven true now that it's finally out. But it is one of those things where, like you said, it's the end of an era, it's the end of the current Call of Duty. I forget which producer was being asked about that over on the Activision side, but they said it's the end of a certain era, a certain identity for Call of Duty, and then it's going to get handed over to Xbox. So it is one of those things where it's so big that it can't really take any dents at this point anyway. But I am fascinated by, or I will be fascinated by, the sales. Like, is the average person going to realize, is there going to be that mainstream conversation between the average person just saying to each other, like, hey, this isn't worth full price, or I regret buying it, or whatever, and will that take hold, and then will that affect Microsoft's
Scott, we say this
forward?
Every single year. I have conversations with mates who are like, I'm not going to get the new Call of Duty, and then they end up getting it anyway. And I'm like, again, if you want to play it, I'm no judgment-free zone, right? But if you're going to come out and say, like, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting the new Call of Duty, I'm not getting the new FIFA or whatever, and then you go and get it anyway, because that's the thing you do. It is the routine, it is the tradition now that
True.
you have your one big game a year or whatever.
COD launch weekend's fun, man. I mean, the thing is, right, I'll tell you what's really interesting is that history has kind of repeated, because I don't know about you, but I dropped off the original Modern Warfare 3. That was the one that I just didn't get. I felt like it was too many in a row. I love Black Ops, back in the original Black Ops, and then I didn't get Modern Warfare 3. That was where I started to falter a bit, and I didn't come back, I think, until about World War II or something. And so
I'd want to come back to.
I can't, yeah, it might have been that, it might have been Infinite. I forget which order they rolled out in, but it was, I missed a couple anyway, but it was definitely Modern Warfare 3 at the time that I was like, I'm kind of checking out. And I feel like a few people did then as well. And I wonder whether that happens again, like whether people are like, this is too much of the same thing year in, year out. And obviously, like you said, everyone always says that, but at the same time, this is the first time it's had a 4 out of 10 from IGN, a 5 out of 10 from GameSpot. Like, it is quite telling that it is the most threadbare, barely cooked version you could get.
The closest low point we have to the new Modern Warfare 3 in terms of the Call of Duty franchise, I feel, would have been Infinite Warfare, which I feel that received decent to good reviews.
That game was still great, man. I loved it.
It just came out at a point in time where everyone was kind of fed up with near future stuff. One of the most disliked, if not the most disliked video game trailer in like YouTube history, whatever. This feels like it's, I don't know, like, I feel like Call of Duty always bounces back, and I feel like the franchise, that the player base there is so plugged into the idea of nostalgia. If you consume Call of Duty content on YouTube or whatever, a lot of this is like, oh, we're gonna get to go back to Verdansk, and they've got Ghost back, and we're gonna get Makarov back, and we're gonna do this. It just feels very like self-iterative and yeah, I don't know. I feel like even if you have a lull in Call of Duty stuff, it's never going to be enough to break that cycle. It is such a bedded-in gaming franchise. It is a staple. It's not had any kind of, time away from the spotlight. People are going to still play it. It's too big to fail. I genuinely do think it's too big to fail. And especially, it's kind of confirmed the fact that, PlayStation were begging to have that 10-year deal from from Xbox to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Even if it is constantly diminishing returns, people will still turn up to play Call of Duty. That's just the way it's been. It's the way it's always going to be. And I don't even see even there's a new generation of gamers who have grown up with stuff like Fortnite. Call of Duty is still an ever-present thing. So true. I don't see this as being a generational kind of shift or anything. It's still going to do well. People are still going to be like, oh, we're going to get a new Black Ops. They're going to bring back Mason. They're going to bring back this guy. And it's like, this franchise, man, it's it quit living in the past, man. Quit living in the past.
I am fascinated by what happens next, because there was in the previous timeline, it was Modern Warfare 3 was a bit shaky, and then I'm blanking on the order of the next one. Was it Black Ops was straight after that?
So no. So you had Black Ops in 2010, Modern Warfare 3 in 2011, 2012 was Black Ops 2, which was a banger.
Yes.
2013, I think, was Ghosts.
Yeah, Ghosts is where it started to falter. That was where it was commonly agreed that it was one too many that year.
Even then, the sales of those games are still massive. I feel like we're at a point now where everyone will just turn up for Call of Duty because it is the big event franchise thing that they're comfortable with and they're familiar with, and that's just how it's going to be. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to see a case with Call of Duty where they have a step back and think, with Battlefield, let's maybe take a few years off and assess where we went wrong. But again, you've got 20. They're charging $25 for character skins and special bullets because they know they can. The reason people get outraged over those things is because people are buying them. I don't know. I feel like they're going to be rewarded for their nonsense for years to come.
That's a really good way to put it. Rewarded for their nonsense. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like I said, I'm fascinated where we go from here, because I feel like Modern Warfare 3 was a shake in the previous timeline, and they sort of tried to course correct, ended up in the future stuff, and then Advanced Warfare was solid enough. I really liked Infinite Warfare, but you can argue it wasn't Call of Duty, whatever. And then Black Ops 3 was really bad, and etc. And so it's we're in this
Black Ops
weird...
3's multiplayer was really good. The single player,
the
single player was a bit nah, but the multiplayer, that was a fun time. People will come back and go, we were harsh on Black Ops 3.
Give it enough time. But we'll see how things go from here.